transition seems to be the biggest vocab word for Liverpool after reports that former Real Madrid coach Xabi Alonso is shown to be appointed after falling out in the locker room with Arne Slot after their Premier League title defense and their exit out of the Champions League quarterfinal against PSG. Mind you, it's PSG, one of the best offensive teams in world football at the time. So, fair enough. They lose in the FA Cup, in the Carabao Cup, and after like a decent February, they've lost 4-0 to Liverpool in the FA Cup. They lost 2-1 to Brighton, and they've lost 2-0 twice to PSG in a 4-0 aggregate. Placed 5th, just trying to survive in top 4 out of a title defense. So every silverware there is to win is out of reach. Most players that are openly departing is Mohamed Salah after a poor season from him. Then we have Andrew Robinson. Alisson is getting up there in age, and possibility of him staying on the team is really questionable. They already have 2 of their strikers that cost a combined 300 million already injured. Achilles tendon injury from Hugo Ekitike, and then your Swedish $135 million striker out of Alexander Isak. You force him to play up front and then bench your top scorer, your all-time top scorer out of Mohamed Salah. Not even a chance to give Federico Chiesa an opportunity to play. Florian Wirtz has been lambasted from the club, all because of poor he's not putting any type of top class Eden Hazard level performances every week when he's a serviceable link-up player. And they actually play a better formation than their 4-2-3-1, revolving around gegenpressing and playing wide between 2 strikers, two strike wingers, like when they had Diogo Jota, God rest his soul, and then you had Luis Diaz, that's now in the Champions League semi-final and about to win the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich after letting them go so you can start Cody fudging Gakpo. Look, I understand Liverpool thought there'd be the utmost competence, even though they were playing Cody Gakpo in a center forward role. They weren't drifting him wide so he can transition. He used he has like a 6'3" frame. 6'4". Can stride down the middle. He likes drifting down the middle. Straight and direct. Cuts wide, wants to push over and shoot. Diaz would be over in the wing, and most of the time he'd be scoring more centrally than anything Cody Gakpo has done. And Mohamed Salah would transition wide with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Liverpool has no long-distance passers. Alexis McAllister has taken a step down in production, too heavily where it doesn't even feel like he belongs on the pitch. Gravenberch makes heavily hasted around mistakes where you forget he was a wonder kid years ago. And the best performers you would say this entire year is either Alisson, Frimpong on his day, and Dominic Szoboszlai. And sometimes Florian Wirtz. But more feels like he's just a squad player, and it doesn't feel like he's putting up elite performances outside of his production, because not always goal and assist tell the story of how a player impacts a team like how you do Florian Wirtz. And I'm not trying to say that so I can just try to missile the blow. Curtis Jones possibly is going to leave. You already have Andrew Robinson and Mohamed Salah about to leave. Alexis McAllister might get sold. Curtis Jones might get sold. Wataru Endo has been injury prone and he's like 33 years old. You let Tamikaz left, you have no fullback depth other than Andrew Robinson and Milos Kerkez that just stink up the joint. Frimpong, that this is not a wing-back formation, he actually has to track back with no defensive assistance, trying to push over a back 3 formation with two giraffes on the pitch that have no athletic bone in their body and rely on striding and trying to co-work, and you see a lot of like miscommunication whenever Konate and Van Dijk play. It pisses me off to no end, bro. And I like Liverpool. I like when Jurgen Klopp was the head coach, and that's not even full glaze. You guys see Jurgen Klopp has turned Liverpool into a mediocre team that can never reach anything to being the biggest interruption from the Manchester City dominance over this past decade. Winning almost everything there is to win in England and in Europe. The Champions League, Premier League titles, including Arne Slot's one, and he's already getting sacked because they spent the money to try to feel like that's going to be enough to succeed. I think, and we forgot, shout out Rio Engamoa, that when he actually plays, he can actually perform. Want to attack more directly, can move, but Slot just thinks so highly of Cody Gakpo. It's conflicting. Whenever you see Cody Gakpo play, he wants to drift wide, cut outside, shoot. Drift wide, he is like a Dutch version of Marcus Rashford with no end product and barely enough pace. He has the frame of a striker. Why are we playing him as a striding winger that can't link up? He can't create. He can't be explosive whenever he cuts outside to shoot, and he's not skillful in the slightest. They could have moved him centrally as a second striker to pair with Ekitike. Have three mids. Push a wingback system with Kirkez and Frimpong, and have a war with Joe Gomez. Now I hear Joe Gomez is gonna leave. If you're telling me over these past several games that the last goal contribution Cody Gakpo had was since April 11th against Fulham, where he had one assist, one yellow card, with one goal against West Ham. And by the way, that was around February, as his last goal contributions are 2 months apart, and his only consistency games are against Fulham. Yellow card, goal. Yellow card, goal. Play 11 minutes, then you're playing 90 minutes. And that was against Marseille in the Champions League. Bare minimum of level competition. Why is this guy rotating around? And this is when Liverpool was such... Mohamed Salah was in such poor form. I would say it's rightfully so that he gets scrutinized for his underperformances, because people have so much high expectations for Mohamed Salah because of how much he's impacted the club. You don't know how much this is a step down. And this is the time when Mohamed Salah's worst productive year was 19 goals in a season. 19 goals in a season in the Premier League. And this is coming from his Golden Boot season when he had 34 goals, 24 goals, 13 assists. He had 23 assists in all competition, 30 with 16, 31 with 15. He was averaging 40. He had 44 goals with barely a Ballon d'Or nomination around prime Ronaldo and Messi in his debut season in Liverpool. And then 2 years later, he won the Prem and the Champions League. So it's just such a step down when he's coming from these dramatic seasons. And 12 goal contributions is nothing to scoff at out of 12 games played. And then the latter half of the season, he's getting benched in pivotal roles where his team would probably need some experience and some creativity and a familiar face to link up around. But you want to force over a guy that just coming back from a massive injury that could have cost him the whole season out of Alexander Isak, and then Ekitike. That has been a big upgrade outside of Isak's injury, because he had no fitness. The guy had no preseason the time he got signed, because he was trying to force over and stronghold Newcastle into a move to even sign, being a bitch faking injury until he was fit. And then, as feels like poetic justice, Alexander Isak gets injured and misses several months of football after a game against Newcastle, where coincidentally enough they won. And yet, coming out of all of this, it seems like Liverpool, all they want to do is just fire everybody. This is a massive setback. They were trying to be English Galacticos that nobody can take seriously. They had too many cooks with the lack of philosophy, because when we're coming from Liverpool, they got underrated talent, primarily from the South Coast, like Sadio Mane that was coming from Southampton. Clubs that not a lot of people go for attractive signings, or players that they actually don't mind developing, like Connor Bradley, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Trent Alexander-Arnold, that become worth at least 50 million plus pounds values of talent, while investing to become one of the most electric offenses in English football history. So it's a bit sad for a title defense. And don't get me wrong, I've seen worse seasons for title defenses in the Premier League. Everybody remembers Leicester, and now they have a possibility of getting relegated to the third division after getting relegated with Jamie Vardy last season. So coming from first to fifth is a bit of a disappointment. But guys, for Liverpool fans, all you have to do is just tweak up and make sure everybody's fit. I wouldn't say it's a drastic turn of measure, but it's obviously going to be a culture shock, knowing that you guys are the most sporadic. There feels like there's no energy on the team, especially the losses of Milner, Jordan Henderson. You guys have no Energizer bunnies on this club. There's no personality here, just too many names and not enough people. If y'all know what I mean, I think Liverpool fans would understand me. When, sure, they weren't world-renowned talents that were known for like their technical brilliance or like ability. Jordan Henderson was actually a quality midfielder for the Premier League, and he'll show up when it counts. Milner was incredibly versatile, had legs for days, always had the gas, and clutched up over in the penalties whenever necessary. When it comes to Joe Gomez, Gini Wijnaldum, sure, not world-renowned names, but Liverpool fans will never forget them. Matip, I'm sure some of you guys will not remember Takumi Minamino. But besides that, jokes aside, like, this is a piss poor Liverpool team that feels like they always lose gas in the final third. They'll be too stubborn to sacrifice name value talent for developing youth, and very little of an offensive identity when it comes to how they want to stride right and make this high line system, because they want to push over for that low block that always cuts them off whenever they're on the break when they take the ball away. They were ready to jump first on the opportunity and then attack with the dagger as soon as they get a chance. That's how Liverpool was off the gegenpress. We just had more of a technical tweak, the way Arne Slot did. And now it feels like he just was so fixated over the minute flaw that they feel like they can maximize on. And then you gotta get guys that are not that insured. You had too many guys that had to force to be insured into the way their style played. It's insane too, because if we're being honest, Liverpool didn't even use a pure number 9 when they even had their success. They wanted to enforce over a 4-4-2 when Liverpool was always successful with a false fucking 9. Hell, you could have pushed over Mohamed Salah to be a false 9. He can play. He's played center forward before and still has maximum production, even the time when they were injury prone as fuck. Ekatike, they can stride over that front two system seamlessly, play total football, press over and get 1-2 extra goals without doing anything extra. Even the games can come close, and now I gotta witness Arsenal fans this Sunday try to fight over themselves winning, trying to bet on themselves winning the league until they choke a game because they can't understand how to stop a Cherokee. Besides that, this is a piss poor season for title defense, but not really the end of the world if they can still secure European football. That seems to be possible for Liverpool to even get to that feat, because their next game is a very important one. In their derby game against Everton, that is their rivals. Crystal Palace, that's depleting with talent that was sold from the January and summer transfer window. Manchester United, that's actually been a very good team this season, but has shown some stints of a loss in form. Chelsea, that's been inconsistent, but still have better talent that can work in a more efficient way offensively than Liverpool. Aston Villa, that's making it to the Europa League semifinals or final if they can beat Nottingham Forest. And then Brentford, that is shockingly enough, after losing 2 top forwards, got a more talented Brazilian forward and is now close to probably getting a Champions League opportunity. I wish I was joking. Like, Brentford is shockingly really competitive this season. Like, if we look at their standings, they're only 7th place, only a point below Chelsea, and they've only drew points, while Chelsea has gotten only 1 win out of their last 5, only picking up a 4-1 victory against Villa, and lost to Everton. Lost to Everton again, and lost to Manchester City. No, I think they lost to Brentford. Newcastle. They lost to Newcastle 1-0. And this has already been a hectic season in the Premier League. Tottenham Hotspur is close to getting relegated to the 2nd division for being part of the Big Six. And a loss of foundation, loss of identity, and loss of morale. I think this Spurs team is cooked. Wolves have a possibility of trying to regain back control into at least a second worst finish than Tottenham has, staying up and surviving outside of the form when people thought West Ham, that's actually won more games than Tottenham has this entire month. And yet Sunderland stays up. The only promoted club that's going back down is a consistent yo-yo that is Burnley. So you guys tell me down below. Is this really the worst title defense you've seen for Liverpool? You think they can bounce back next summer for this? Or you think it will be time until they can actually be considered a club that can compete back in the Prem with what looks to be a massive change in direction? Because it seems like clubs in the Premier League are just going to get better when it comes to development. Everton has had developing great players and building over the finances to develop as a big club. Sunderland having a good debut season back in the Prem after years. Brentford building over a foundation as a competitive European team. So is Villa. And Arsenal's looking like the best team in England. So it just takes a while that Liverpool has gotten themselves so behind trying to bet on themselves after one good year, and everything falls apart as soon as they find adversity. That's it from me over in the DSC show. Like, comment, subscribe, share with the other ones and try to spread out the channel. Y'all want to discuss what's going on in the Premier League, please comment down below. Tell me about your favorite team. That's it from me on the DSC show.